Hey everyone, and welcome back here to my channel where I play Plants 2. My name is Nissa, and today I actually got a request for a Egyptian fruit bat castle. So I made this little habitat for them, but of course we needed the entire castle, so here it is. And if you want to know how I built this or simply just learn more about the Egyptian fruit bat, then please keep watching. Okay guys, and let me just start off by apologizing for the horrible sound quality for the intro and outro. I just noticed it. It's awful, I know. I don't know how to clean it up, and I do not have the time to put on makeup and look pretty and record it again. I really don't. And since it's only like half a minute now and half a minute in the end, I hope you can live with it. Hopefully this quality is better, but basically today we are building something a little bit different. It isn't that long since I built a castle. I built my King Polar's castle, which were for the polar bears. I did that as a what's it called, a diorama, which I actually also thought about doing with this, but I chose it in to do this basically because, well, I am a princess. I am. And even though as a kid I would always pick a farm over a castle, I still wouldn't say no to a castle. So I think it fits in quite well here, and I really enjoyed building it. So yeah, let's get started. And of course I need to thank Spencer Harry, I think you're called, who asked in a comment on my meerkat and warhawk habitat if I please could build a Egyptian fruit bat vampire castle. And as I answered in my comment is that I will definitely think about it, and I will say that every time you guys ask me to build something, I will definitely think about it, but I decide what I build from the point where I sit down and start building. I need the inspiration to come there. I do not understand half the build I make. It's very much like, I feel like doing this, I feel like doing this, I do this, then I do this, and that's all it is. I know some Planet Zoo builders would be very, very good at just picking something and doing it, but for me it's very important that I have this need to build it more so than I want to build it, if it makes any sense for you. And at the time I got the comment, I already had a few ideas floating around my brain, but yesterday I decided to sit down and think. And I just sat down in front of my computer and I got this idea again, starting with the idea of having a princess castle, because of course I wanted one. I rather have a farm once again, but I wanted a castle also. I wanted it all because I'm a girl and I'm built that way. So that's where we are now. So I sat down and I thought the vampire thing I put a little bit away. It still have some of these darker tones. It's not built that much from the idea of a vampiric castle, but it isn't either a really fancy castle. It is kind of these older, worn down castles, which I think is a nice balance in between. I did get some of my inspiration here from the Hogwarts Legacy game that will arrive in February, and I plan to play a little bit on it on my second channel, which at this time is called Nissaman. I do plan to change the name when I start playing other games than just Pokemon over there. But that's the plan. But I got this idea because we see in one of the trailers that your character have the room of inquirement where they have this kind of indoor greenhouse. And that's kind of the inspiration where you have this beautiful... well, there it looks like you actually goes outside when you go into it. But a lot of older castles had this kind of indoor garden. You can see it in castles from South Europe, for instance, where they have this kind of opening in the middle of the castle where you can see straight up to the sky. And you have the garden inside where you would be safe. Again, castles aren't only built to be fancy homes. They are built to be safe and protect the ones living there, because it would be important people living there. So you have this garden people could walk into in the middle of the castle, and you would also have like food items in there, like fruit, vegetables, and what's it called? I'm not sure what they're called. Do you think spices growing in there? So that was where I wanted to go with it, more that direction. And from there on, I went to down here. In my area of the world, we do have a lot of castles. Not many with these kind of things, but the further north you get, the colder it becomes. And for castles up closer to the north, you would have these same structures basically, but in the top you would have like a glass ceiling instead of just open air. You would have this glass ceiling, so the sun will come in, but you protect it for the rain, the storm, the snow, the cold, everything, to keep your plants as healthy as possible. From there, the thought just sparked in my brain, well, what if that glass cracked at some point? What if it cracked and the bats just moved in? Because that's something bats do. They find a cozy place where they can hid out through the most of the day and then come out when they want to. And this would be perfect for that. So therefore, the idea were that we had this old castle placed in the backyard. It would be old, it would be worn down, and then we would try as a family unit to repurpose it. And then you had this kind of indoor greenhouse in the middle where they already were bats, but because bats really carry a lot of disease, you clean them out. But from there, the idea had sprung to actually have bats in here, and then chosen to get some Egyptian fruit bats also for the educations, because Egyptian fruit bats are some of the most important bats in the world, which I will come in on a bit later. Promise you will get some info about the bat. I just wanted this entire story for you to make sense, also because not a lot of zoos have a castle, and especially not a lot of backyard zoos have a castle. But again, we are in my childhood fantasy and I can build what I want. I also decided not to make... I thought about making an entire castle from the outside, like a giant castle with all of the rooms, but rather focusing on like the fact that this castle had maybe been bigger at some point, but then it had to be like a part of it was really unsafe to be around, and you needed to what's the word? You needed to like a part of the castle were in ruin, so you couldn't use that. So you only use the part that you actually could save, and this would be this. And you would originally have stables and everything like growing out for this building, but this is the only surviving part of the castle. So yeah. But let's get into the more educational part, and let's talk a little bit about these beautiful Egyptian fruit bats. If you would describe a bat, you would normally say it's a featherless bird-ish thingy. It kind of looks a little bit like a rat or something like that, but with these kind of scaly wings, but still fur on the body. It would be hard to describe, and that really isn't that weird, because besides other bats aren't really like other animals. They even have, like, all the way through the different columns here, they have all of their own. Of course, class-wise, they are still in the Mammalia class, meaning it's animals, which makes perfectly sense. They have the order Chiroptera, I think it's pronounced, which hold over 1,200 bats. And I thought this must be all the bats, so I asked Google. Also because I went through some of them and they were only bat, but I wanted to make sure that it wasn't other animals also. So I asked Google, because Google is reliable, how many subspecies of bats are there? And according to Google, who get this from www.doi.gov, which I have no idea what is. But according to that, there is more than 1,400 species of bats worldwide. So some of them are not on Animalia, or some of them are basically in another order. So bats can be in more than those. However, I will just mention, even though some of them look like bats very much, they do not have bat in the name. Looking more specifically at our little fellow here, it is also in the family Pteropodidae, and the subfamily Prostodinae. Yeah, the difference is a D in one of them and an N in one of them, which we have seen before. Meaning that both the family and the subfamily is the same 9 subspecies of bats. And the genus for this specific bat is Rosetus, giving it the Latin name Rosetus aegyptiacus, which translates directly to Egyptian's rosette, which is the other name for it besides Egyptian fruit bat. Again, Rosetus is the specific subspecies of a subspecies of a subspecies. Their genus in this small family will be Rosetus, but they will have a different second name, being here the Aegyptiacus. So you will find at least 9 of these Rosetus bats out there, which are the closest related you can find. And another word for this small group of bats, the Rosetus, is the mega bats, which is because of their size. And normally when we talk mega, we think like mega, giga, giant things. No, it's mega compared to other bats, but again, the length goes from 12 to 19 centimeters, which would be, I think, around 30 inch to 50 inch, around that. So it's not like a giant bat, but probably big enough to scare some people if it flies into them or something like that. Again, bats are not as scary as some people may think, or dangerous at all. They have a wingspan of 60 centimeters, which is roughly 2 feet. And they weigh between 80 and 170 grams, which would be like 0.1 to 0.2 pounds, I guess. So yeah, still very small. Even though they have this big size compared to their weight, you need to keep in mind that they need to be able to fly, so they are not built to be heavy. Their wings are pretty much empty. They don't carry like not even feathers or anything like that that could weigh down the wings. They are real thin and basically only skin to make them able to fly this way. And by the way, when I have already mentioned that bats can be scary, I know there's multiple places around the world where you can go into bats habitats, but also in the wild you can go into caves where they are natural bats. And you are welcome to do so, but I ask you, if you are a screamer, if you are one of those people, every time you get the smallest surprise, you're gonna scream. Don't, because the bats do not like the noise at all. They don't like the attention, and you probably won't see them when they just sit on the wall. You will not see them before they actually move around, and therefore you can't get a small surprise when they are just above you and start moving around. So again, respect the animal and give them this peace and quiet if you can. But besides the fact that the Egyptian fruit bat is a big bat, you probably want to know what is the difference between these and others, because if you like me only have seen 1 or 2 species of bats and normally see them flapping around on a distance, you probably wouldn't be able to tell them apart. But here they are described by a individual which was in Egypt's Great Pyramid of Giza. I'm not sure where this text originally came from besides that, but it is appearing on Animalia, and I'm gonna read it straight up from there, so you're gonna get it the way it's described here. The Egyptian fruit bat is a comparatively large, robust bat that has a fox-like face with a noticeable large eyes, dark, rounded, naked ears, and a short tail. Its fine, sleek fur ranges in color from dark brown to grayish brown, lighter on its belly, often with an orange or pale yellow color around its neck. It is sometimes called a flying fox due to its appearance. It has a very large tongue which coils around its rib cage when it isn't feeding, which for me, again, I'm done reading here. It sounds weird, the last part. A tongue which coils around its rib cage, and around the rib cage must be outside the body when it isn't feeding. So it sits on the wall with the tongue around its belly. It sounds weird to me, and this is particularly where I wanted to read this out loud so you can understand why I don't want to explain this any better than it already is. When we look at where the Egyptian fruit bat lives, which isn't Egyptian as just Egyptian, if we can say it that way, or Egypt, sorry. But if you look at a map while I'm reading these countries out loud, you will find something weird about it. So I'm just gonna start reading. Here we have Angola, Burundi, Cameroon, Congo, DR Congo, Cote d'Ivoire, Cyprus, Egypt, Equatorial Guinea, Eritrea, Ethiopia, Gabon, Gambia, Ghana, Guinea, Iran, Israel, Jordan, Kenya, Lebanon, Lesotho, Liberia, Libya, Malawi, Mozambique, Nigeria, Oman, Pakistan, Palestine, Rwanda, Sao Tome and Principe, Saudi Arabia, Senegal, Sierra Leone, South Africa, Spain, Sudan, Swaziland, Syria, Tanzania, Togo, Turkey, Uganda, United Arab Emirates, Yemen, Zambia, and Zimbabwe. What I find really interesting here is normally a animal live in one area or maybe two areas that have had at some point been one and then cut off from each other. Here's a lot of these countries are really far apart from each other, which looks really weird on the map. There are some of the areas that seems coastally, but besides that, these places do not have much to do with each other's. For biomes, they stay with grassland, savanna, anthropogenic, shrubland. A lot of these places we have a lot of in Africa. Continue with rainforest and forest. Again, lots of that in Africa. And then we have the caves, of course. And even though caves are put here as a biome, like they can pick one or the others, caves are pretty much in need, either a cave or abandoned building or somewhere where they can have enough peace and quiet and place enough to fly around in these big groups. For climate zones, they live both in the tropical, arid, and temperate, so there's a big span there to pick between. The Egyptian fruit bat can live in very small groups. Here we talk about 20-40 individuals, but they can also live in these huge colonies that can be up to about 9,000 individuals or so. They prefer to use most of the day to roost or do roosting, which they will be doing, for instance, in trees or in ruins or caves, which we have talked about before. Places where there's a little more human than there are other places that are quiet. There's a more constant temperature. And there's just peace and quiet, and you can feel more safe there. When mating season starts, they will split up to groups, which would be a bachelor groups and then a maternity groups for the females. The females will be into smaller maternity groups where all of the males can join one big group. However, they will still continue to roost close to each other, again, because they do like the same environment, and it's really important for their entire inner system and their bodies overall that they have this humid and constant temperature when they roost. So therefore they won't like move out and do this. They will do it real close, so it can be hard to tell if they belong to one or the other group. Bats are most active during the night, which I think most people talk about, but bats, depending, and not only these bats, but most bats are actually choosing their living condition based on where they are. Since, for instance, up here in the north, it gets dark in the winter very early. So here you would see bats come out in the early afternoon even, and don't return to their home before the sun goes up again, which would be kind of in the middle of the day here in the winter. Where, of course, bats like the Egyptian fruit bat living places with more sun will be out and about a smaller period of the day, because they will still only do it when the sun is gone. The Egyptian fruit bat are frugivores, which I think most people would have guessed based on the name. They do, however, don't eat this fruit as we do. We prefer fruit in that very narrow window where it's ready to be eaten, but we don't want it to go soft. We don't want it to turn color. We don't want it anything. Where the Egyptian fruit bats want it to be more soft and not rotten, but they wanted to like let the banana becomes a little brown. Don't rot, but just a little brown, a little more soft, easier to digest. They do, however, prefer fruit from trees such as lilac, carob, mulberry, sycamore, not sure how I pronounce that, fig, and baobab. The Egyptian fruit bat are polyamorous, but they actually understand the word. I have went after a few animals here where the male can mate with whoever he wants, but the female have to only be with one. Here it actually is both males and females who mate with both or multiple partners. So if you ask me, it's a little more fair. Their mating system also differs from other animals based on when their mating season is. Most animals have once a year or something like that, but the Egyptian fruit bat mate from April to August, but then they take a break and then they start over and do it again from October to February. The female will be pregnant for about 3.5 to 4 months and give birth to 1 or 2 pups, and yeah, they are called puppies, just like dogs. The pup will be independent after about 9 months, where they would be able to like fly out and take care of themselves. But again, they will still stay living in the same area because that's how they do. It would be too vulnerable trying to fly out in the world and hope to find a new home, another place. Again, it can happen that they find a better place, but mostly you don't just fly out into the savannah and don't know if you can get some nice shade later in the day. The Egyptian fruit bat have a number of issues, and I'm sad to say it's our fault. One big issue is the fact that it is a pest for a lot of people, and here in between is the fruit farmers in the area. And I understand if you need to sell this fruit to be able to feed your own family, it's really frustrating someone else comes and steals it, so I understand that part. We also have issues where people don't like all of the bad droppings on walls and rooftops and so on. People don't enjoy that so much. And at the same time, we are also really concerned, especially the last couple of years, about potential diseases bats can carry. Therefore, they are hunted, fumigated, and the caves are even being destroyed just so you could get rid of the bats in some of these areas. Besides that, they are also hunted in other parts of Africa simply as a food source, because some African people like to eat them. I do not see a lot of meat on it though, but if it tastes good, I will try anything, as long as it tastes good. They also have issues, of course, with threats such as deforestation and the increase in tourism in the caves, which is still our fault mainly, but it's a little more not on purpose our fault, if you can say it that way. Despite this, the numbers are still kind of up there, where numbers some places, for instance in Southwest Africa, typically would be around 50 to 500 numbers only. But some places, for instance in Turkey, they are estimated to be as big as 5 to 10,000 individuals and 1 to 2,000 in Syria. As you can see here, the numbers are very guessing numbers, and that's of course because try you walk into a cave and start counting the bats. First of all, you could miss some that were hiding. Second of all, they will start flying around and make it very difficult for you, so issues here. However, the number is currently estimated as 40 to 50,000 individuals in Africa, and therefore they are currently listed as a least concerned animal according to the IUCN and Red List. Keep in mind that this is a number that we will need to keep an eye on the future, basically because we are giving these animals a lot of issues. Again, I understand why you want to keep the numbers a certain amount of low some places, and I understand pests are never nice to have yourself, but if we don't want this animal to go extinct at some point, we still need to be careful how many of them we exterminate over time. Anyway, that's all I got for you for now, so enjoy the cinematics and I will come back with the badly sounding outro. Okay guys, that's all I got for you today, and as always, you know the drill. Like, subscribe, and turn on the bell of notifications so you know the next time I upload a video. Really hope to see you again either in the comments below or in the next video. Bye guys!